Today on Up Front, a new way to pay. Assembly Republicans offer their own funding fix for state roads. Next, Representative Dale Cuenga on the plan and the sell. Can they get the governor to buy in? Plus, the story of Janesville, the author who's chronicled the economic and personal devastation of the GM plant closing. Has the city come back?
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. We begin today with the new plan to pay for Wisconsin's highways, roads, and bridges. Several weeks ago, the Assembly's Republican leadership decided to start over on transportation funding, tossing out the governor's plan and looking for a longer-term fix for the state's transportation needs. Last week, they unveiled their big idea. It's a complex plan to cut the gas tax by 5 cents a gallon, but apply the state's 5% sales tax to gas sales. The plan also cuts back the minimum markup on gas and would cut state income taxes to eventually move toward a flat tax rate of around 4%. Other provisions would impose a fee on electric vehicles and hybrids and let the Department of Transportation ask the federal government for the authority to create tollways. Brookfield Republican Representative Dale Cuenga is the architect of this new plan, and he joins us now on Up Front. Representative, good to have you back on the show.
Hey, always good to be here.
So, do you have any reason to believe that the governor and members of the Senate are going to be serious about this plan, that this plan actually has a chance of becoming the plan for the future?
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with the governor's office and the senators, and they're being very professional. There's a lot of statesmen over there, and I think they're willing to look at public policy solutions, and every indication I get is they understand that we put a lot of work and thought into this. We talked to a lot of stakeholders, and I appreciate the vast majority of them have been very open to discussions. These are not problems we can fix in 2 years, but what the Assembly want to do is lay out a 10-year conversation on both taxes and transportation needs.
So, as we said, there are a lot of moving parts to this, and Senator Luther Olson remarked when it came out that it was sort of a Rube Goldberg thing, which means, yes, there are a lot of moving parts. Some people might say it's a little convoluted. I'm sure that would not be your description of it. But the question I have is there too much going on when, in fact, we're dealing with a very basic problem? How do we pay for transportation?
Well, it's a complex problem, and I think complex problems require complex solutions. And the complex problem is our income tax code is horrible in Wisconsin. It's one of the worst in the country by nearly everyone that rates the strength of a tax code and economic growth. And our transportation system is not in the right direction. So I don't really think it's as complicated as people make it sound. Essentially what we're doing is we're saying Wisconsin has the most generous minimum markup law for gas stations in the country. Most gas stations around the country actually make more money in the convenience store with the selling of water and sodas and stuff like that and take a smaller margin at the pump. But Wisconsin actually says, in statute, this is how much you have to sell gas for. We're lowering that. And I actually have gas station owners in northern Wisconsin. He has 33 gas stations, also has gas stations in Michigan. He says at his gas stations, this will be a penny for penny reduction. So the consumer at the pump won't even feel anything. And I think it's fair.
So you're prepared to say at this point, is it a guarantee that people who go to the gas pump will not see an increase in gas prices if your plan were to go into effect?
No, I mean, I want to be genuine about that. I mean, I think I can't guarantee what the stock market's going to do 3 months. And when you're talking about market forces on the minimum markup law, like, I can't guarantee what market forces do. But I can tell you that there are individuals with gas stations out there that would say, hey, this is a penny for penny reduction. And I think generally speaking that price will be pushed down. And if you look at the overall price in gas, it will be negligible. It could go down. I don't know what gas prices are going to do, but I think it's a responsible way that we could say, hey, we need to pay for our roads. And the way that the Assembly is proposing it is we're actually reducing bonding by $300 million, which saves $150 million over the life of those bonds. Do we want to spend money on interest, or do we want to spend the money on labor and materials to fix our roads? I think we want to spend the money on labor and materials to fix our roads.
So one of the key parts of this plan, and what I think may be the most attractive part of it to Republicans, is this notion of eventually going to a flat tax of just under 4%. But the criticism from Democrats is that the wealthiest people in Wisconsin, those in households making $250,000 a year or more, are going to be the ones who really see the big break here. They're going to go from a 7.65 tax rate down to less than 4.
Yeah, and I see personally, in my personal life, I see people in our church that are great people who are mentors, who are people that have businesses, and they've done well. And what they do is they go to Florida, Arizona. I mean, just look at the studies out there. We are losing people that not only contribute to our economics by staying and living in Wisconsin, but we're also losing like mentors. We're losing seniors that could be around our community at so many different levels, and they do that because they have the ability to go to their states where their taxes are lower. And so I think this is something that keeps people in Wisconsin and keeps businesses in Wisconsin, but also actually attracts people to Wisconsin as well.
So that's one of your concerns, that people are leaving the state, higher earners, higher income people are leaving the state?
Absolutely.
And you think this would address that?
Absolutely. Wisconsin is one of the states with, as sociologists call it, ZPG, zero population growth. And one of the reasons for that is our high taxes. When you retire, you generally have a fixed income. And when you have a fixed income, you can make that fixed income go farther by having lower taxes, right? And so, Governor Walker's been awesome on property tax relief. There's been a lot of progress on that. We also want to make progress on the income taxes.
I want to talk to you about something else that's in this piece of legislation. It's about saying there's going to be a moratorium on wheel tax increases. Yeah. But some will be allowed to continue to exist, but the one in Milwaukee County, which was voted on by the duly elected representatives of Milwaukee County and signed by the duly elected county executive, you're going to get rid of that one. That's $30 per car. The county executive says that could cause the county to face insolvency. Why are you doing that?
Well, we're going to talk, and there's elements of the plan. I mean, this is a starting point. We'll have conversations where we go from here. I've talked to Chris Abley about it, and we'll see what makes sense. I think that the voters of Milwaukee County actually had a referendum on this. It was pretty overwhelmingly. Mm-hmm. Yep, it was non-binding. It was 75% said no wheel tax, and the county board, I believe, was the one who put that on the ballot. So I think this thing's to consider. But I understand County Executive Abley's position on that. We'll take a look at it.
Is your sense that this is something that at the end of the day is going to be the way of the future, or do you think this is going to have a conversation and then we'll move on, as we have so often done when we've talked about transportation in the past?
Yeah, but this is a conversation starter. You mentioned that we have a lot of my colleagues that stood behind the plan, because this isn't a Coinga plan, this is the Assembly GOP plan. And there's dozens of members who have ideas in this plan. And a lot of those members, just like we saw in Congress the other day with the vote on the health care, is a lot of members have problems with portions of the plan. But this is the responsible thing to do, is say, hey, I don't like this portion, I don't like that portion, but generally speaking, does this move us in the right direction for Wisconsin's economy, which is contingent on good transportation and a healthy tax code? And the answer is yes. And so we'll have discussions, we'll go from here. And, we always got the budget done in Wisconsin on time. Republicans have always been civil with each other. We've proven that we could govern, and I think we'll do the same with this budget. Representative
Dale Coinga of Brookfield, he is the architect of this new plan to pay for the state's transportation needs. Always good to have you back on the program. Appreciate it. And our editorial partner, WisPolitics.com, follows work on the state budget in committee. You'll find it on the budget blog at WisPolitics.com and on Twitter. Coming up later on Up Front, what transportation industry trade groups have to say about the Assembly Republican plan. Will it meet our needs, and can they get behind it? But first, the story of Janesville. A new book looks at the profound effects of the GM plant closing, why the author chose his story when
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company.